So my background is that I have been a movement teacher for getting on for 25 years, which involved working one-to-one a lot of the time, very often with women. I'm a Pilates teacher as well as a tantric massage therapist, and getting to know uh, the kind of things that would bring bring her to a Pilates session, and needing to find out more about her life and her background and hobbies and habits and so on, to understand how best to work with her, and finding that an awful lot of the women in particular that I was teaching seem to be having this challenge of not feeling enough, as a sort of broad way of expressing that, that
Mhm.
perhaps they were not as successful as they would like to be in their career, or that success in their career meant some kind of compromise for the family, or all kinds of things. And you can imagine also to do with how she looks, and is that how it should be? And is it how it should be for the age that she is? And all of these kind of things that were honestly kind of um, sometimes quite sad to witness. And so I was often trying to make my Pilates teaching tailored towards helping them to feel, let's say, more whole, or to recognize the capacity that they had, the strength that they had, the grace that they had, um, to feel um, more themselves. And of course, there's a large part of embodiment. So to feel perhaps more in their bodies, more aware of uh, how they are physically, and their physical capabilities. Um, And while for 20 of those years, I was married to another Pilates teacher, we had a business together, and were best friends, and so on and so on. And a few years ago, quite out of the blue, she passed away. Um, and as you may have experienced, grief is an extraordinary teacher. Um,
Mm,
and
absolutely.
one of the things that I found I particularly needed in the months after she passed away was some kind of touch
Mm,
from somebody else. And many people that I came across day to day who knew me would offer hugs,
hmm
but that hug was not, that's not the kind of touch that I needed.
mm,
And also that around that time, the way that grief was sort of operating in me was constant self-judgment.
mm,
So I found a lot of the time I'd be sort of worried about, am I doing this right?
mm,
If I behave in this way, will other people think ill of me?
hmm
In particular, I remember a day when so I, was back at work teaching, and I'd been at the studio for hours, uh, driving home, and thinking to myself, oh, I didn't think about her for 4 hours,
Oh, wow.
which was kind of a relief. And then
Yeah.
immediately thinking, God, you despicable person, that you're
Mm,
feeling good about the fact that you didn't think about your now late wife for 4 hours. And so there was this kind of almost constant inner turmoil around, you know, feeling completely bereft, and also agonizing over whether I was doing the feeling bereft properly,
wow.
or in a way
Mm,
that other people would deem to be the right way to do this. So I suppose I kind of found myself in that position that I was talking about with of some of the women that I've been working with teaching of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing this right.
Yeah.
I'm letting whoever down. And I would say, without going into all the details of the story, I would say that Anushka, my late wife, led me down this path somehow from the other side. Um, I, in searching for somewhere to go and take a week off and relax, and maybe I was thinking maybe do some yoga or some kind of retreat away from everything.
Hmm.
I stumbled upon um, a place very close to me, actually, offering a tantra retreat, um, which turned out to be training in tantric massage. And also through that website, I found a practitioner not far from me.
Hmm.
And again, without doing much research, but reading a little bit about what she was offering, I just went ahead. Something I guess said to me, maybe this is what you need.
Yeah.
And I booked like the full option. There's three or four different levels of things, and I just kind of went all in straight away. Um, and went for this session, and it was a little bit like when I was when I started out on my Pilates journey was because I had a back problem, and literally the first session was a revelation, and almost then I decided I'm going to train to be a teacher. I
Wow.
went to this massage session, um, which I was anticipating was going to be 5 or 6 hours, with a total stranger.
Hmm.
Uh, she talked to me for a long time before the session, so I knew exactly what was going to happen and um, what was uh, required of me, if you like, or what wasn't, as is perhaps more relevant.
Mm.
Really just to be receiving and uh, breathing. And I had this amazing moment, maybe a couple of hours into the session, when I was uh, naked, uncovered, lying on my front with my legs apart, and this stranger, albeit we'd been chatting for a while, but this stranger kneeling in between my legs with her hands on my belly from underneath, and realizing this is the safest that I felt since my wife passed
Mm.
away.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that was I mean, I'm kind of getting goosebumps
Yeah, me too.
remembering this because it was such an
Yes.
extraordinary thing of like
Yeah.
how vulnerable I've probably never been more physically vulnerable than
Mm.
than I was then, but feeling so safe. And and the whole the result of the whole experience was really like uh, night and day. So from that first session on, whereas prior to that, I had all this kind of internal angst and self-critical dialogue, but also I found I wasn't feeling at all safe on many levels, and um, simple things that people would say to me would feel just awful, so kind of
Mm.
shattering. So it felt like, no one can say anything to me because unless they're saying, she was a lovely person and I'm so sorry, or
Mm.
something like that. If, somebody asking me how I was would just send me into a spin of like, what a ridiculous question to ask. So everything felt really threatening. But then after that session, it was like I'd had this huge sort of all-encompassing experience of you're okay.
Mm.
As in not you're emotionally okay, but as a man, you are doing fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you. Everything is as it should be. You can receive love and deserve it. Um, so yeah, it meant I didn't feel in danger from what people might say to me. Like everything changed from then. It was such an extraordinarily powerful inflection point in my grieving process, and that doesn't stop. That's something that I guess
Yeah.
goes on for decades, but it was hugely transformational. Um, and as it happened, um, uh, Atka, who was the person I was receiving the session from, at the end of the session, said to me, um, maybe you should think about doing this work.
Mm. Mm.
And which, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I've just signed up for, I hadn't actually started the training then, but I had signed up for it and thinking, like, is this some kind of conspiracy? Like, but it's all, apparently all part of the universal order. So I did the training,
Mhm.
which goes on for me, took a little over a year, and discovered to my surprise that giving tantric massage is very much like I would approach teaching Pilates, as in the outcome that I was hoping to help people towards is actually the same kind of thing. Feeling more embodiment, feeling more value in themselves, feeling able to love themselves more, all of those kind of things. So when I started out, I sort of, in my mind, these are completely opposite. And surprise, surprise, it turns out that they're actually remarkably similar. And the wonderful thing about the massage sessions, again, from my experience, like one, albeit it was a quite a long day, uh, was a huge transformation. And I
Mm.
think that's the amazing potential of tantric massage is I can do my best to help people towards that kind of outcome in teaching them mindful movement. And we could be doing that once a week for a couple of years and maybe see some significant transformation. But with this, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours can do even more. And that's one of the things that I especially love about it.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you for explaining that.
Mm.
What do you think are the benefits of this kind of work? So you've obviously worked, or you've been working in this way for a while. So what
Mm.
have you noticed are sort of the main benefits? And you also mentioned when we were discussing this chat about wanting to talk about your late wife and how also she had a more direct impact on this in terms of why
Mm.
you wanted to do this work. So maybe you can
Yeah.
just talk about that a little bit.
Yes. Thank you. So, uh, there's a few things that I learned after she passed away about myself and about her and her relationship, or sort of understood a little bit more. And again, I think grief is an incredible teacher. Um, so perhaps lots of things working together. Maybe the start of the training, the things that I was reading then. I was reading a lot of books about Tantra, um, and uh, I I understood that uh, though I had been doing my best to be the best kind of husband and partner I could be, I didn't really understand intimacy, and
Mm,
that to say that out loud sounds kind of strange.
mm,
And I don't think I'm alone in this as a man. Um, so uh, we for many years we didn't have sex as often as I would have liked to. Um, and and I don't think I understood the difference between having sex and making love as I would kind of distinguish those things now.
mm,
Um, and and it sort of felt to me like it was a problem, but it was very difficult to talk about. And if I would try and talk about it, then it wouldn't go so well, and then it would just kind of get parked for a while. But one of the things that I can, so what I discovered, or what dawned on me was that um, though I thought at the time I didn't know what she needed, she was actually telling me what she needed, and I couldn't hear it.
Mm.
Um, Particularly around intimacy and asking for intimacy that wasn't intercourse. And I
Hmm.
didn't really, I was like, well, that, sure, that's something that's on the way towards, the one leads to the other. That's the
Right.
point, right? That's what we're,
Yeah.
um, and also discovering that from, I think, previous relationships, there was some trauma, I guess we could say, that she was carrying around uh, her sexuality, and I think being objectified by men and that kind of thing. Um, and in the last couple of years of her life, we were together, I think, just beginning to unpick that. Um, and I, curiously, I had bought from Amazon a book about yoni massage, thinking maybe this will help me understand how to give her what she needs. Um, and I get perhaps typically male. I wanted to move things faster than she did, and so on. It, it's too late to cut the long story short, but long story short, um, uh, after she passed away, and when I started doing the training, it felt to me like this kind of session, this kind of treatment would have really helped her.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I don't know if she would have chosen to access that, even if she knew. And for me, I probably would have had a huge problem with that as I was then. But
Hmm.
now, having experienced it myself and seeing the results with other people, I, um, I can see the value, and am able to uh, make the separation between um, this kind of very intimate. It's not just the touch. So the difference between the intimacy that partners will share
Hmm.
and the intimacy that I, as a massage therapist, and my client might share. So now those are clearly very different things to me. But
Sure. Of
but
course.
before I would I that wouldn't have made sense.
Mm.
Um, and so I guess that can lead us to the benefits. So I think one of the really crucial things is that I would say every session is an offering of unconditional love from
Mm.
me to the receiver.
Hmm.
Um, and what's important about that, so I don't I don't believe that unconditional love is really possible within a marriage or within a relationship. And I
Yeah, I
don't, uh,
think that's fair.
okay, great. I was thinking I'm going to have to argue this point. So
No.
I love the idea of my sort of approach to the world is to, love unconditionally. But I know within relationships, it's like there is always that thing of, but I did that yesterday, like it's your turn
Mm.
now, or wanting to kind of have some balance or equality, or well, if I do this, then you should do that, or all of those kind of things.
Sure.
And when so uh, when a woman comes to me to receive that touch, and not just the touch, the time, the attention, the presence, um, uh, conscious awareness, stillness, all of those kind of things. Um, she doesn't owe me anything at all. or there's nothing required of her, and there's not going to be tomorrow, now it's my turn, or any of that kind of thing. And I think that that makes for um, such liberation, actually.
Mm.
And I wouldn't, it can also take time. So, of course, um, before any actual touching massage happens, there's a lot that um, we would do together to create as safe a feeling space as possible for both of us, actually, but of course, primarily for her. And that will be um, talking a lot or as much as necessary beforehand to establish um, what she'd like from the session, what she feels she needs from the session when those two things are not necessarily exactly the same. Um, Boundaries, uh, me explaining to whatever degree she would like about the specifics of what's going to happen and so on, and also um, connection rituals, maybe doing some breath work together and eye gazing and other things that may feel right at the time. Again,
Mhm.
in order to try to create this kind of cocoon, which is almost in isolation from everything else, where it is easier to really feel loved unconditionally, and that there isn't anything expected of
Mm.
you, and that you don't have to behave in any particular way. Um, and again, I think that can be hugely liberating, uh, because it's not, so from my point of view, that's not something that we necessarily experience very often at all.
Mm.
And my teacher would say, one of my teachers, we're born into bliss. And
Mm.
I kind of get that, thinking of seeing babies just kind of, when they're not screaming. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't make assumptions about it, but there are moments when you can see a baby just kind of lying and appearing to be just in a state of complete delight at everything that's around it. And I love this idea that we are born into this state of bliss before we've, had um, the necessity of learning, you know, the stuff that can go wrong. And I get another of my teachers talks a lot about how often as babies we experience unconscious touch, which is a really
Mm.
interesting idea for me. And not like what kind of a pattern that sets up, the person who's like, oh, wants to hold the baby and so on. But
Yeah.
so and that's maybe the beginning of all sorts of conditioning,
Mm.
and experiences of childhood and teenage years and so on that teach us perhaps that um, touch is not safe, closeness with another person is not safe. Um, we're not supposed to feel pleasure. We are. I think this is more of a something that the feminine would experience of. I am supposed to be the source of someone else's pleasure rather than I am the source of my own pleasure.
Mm. Mm.
Um, so again, kind of coming back to the benefits, I think that uh, something that I've seen a lot is clients coming because they feel disconnected from their body,
Mm.
and in some ways, I think uh, that's not that's the kind of thing that I think um, the medical profession or healthcare profession maybe doesn't really know what to do with that, or doesn't know what that is.
Mm.
Uh, and so, for example, I've worked with quite a few menopausal or postmenopausal women who found that through this transition, it's like they don't really know who they are kind of physically anymore. It feels like their body's uh, a, a, a different town or something. It's not they're not they're not themselves. anymore. And
And
uh,
also you I think when you're menopausal or perimenopausal, you have a different awareness, or at least what's happened to me is all of a sudden touch, whether it worked for you or didn't, maybe wasn't that important or it didn't matter. And all of a sudden it matters. Like it really matters. And you're not really willing to kind of just endure sort of
mm,
touch that isn't really present or isn't um isn't coming from you, an understanding of what pleasure actually means for you, or what you know is what you find pleasurable. And what I noticed when I got into that stage of life was actually I had no idea what I liked and what I didn't like. It was quite alarming actually. And
right.
part of my experience with having tantric massage was actually realizing like I don't really understand what works for me and what doesn't. And I think in it's quite shocking to me actually that I think in many marriages or long-term relationships, we don't have a practice of talking to our partners. Like we, you know, you can have sex without saying a single thing from beginning
Mm,
to end, and there's no conversation really. And I just, yeah, that whole process of figuring out like what actually feels good and asking for it is really, really hard. And so my experience of having a tantric massage was being able to do that and feeling completely free to actually say what I thought was going to work for me, or try things out or experiment
mm,
with
mm.
different things that I just couldn't do in my marriage, which is wild if you think about it.
Sure.
So I think that's another benefit is you're in this space where you can use your voice to actually say, and also say like, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what I need.
Mm.
Like, help me.
Yes. Yeah. I'm aware. I've been like one of those dogs in the back of, well, not in the past, like back in the 80s, there used to be the nodding dog in the back of the car,
Yeah.
feeling like, yes, vigorously. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Uh, yes. And then uh, this is the space where you can explore those things without consequence
Yeah.
or without fear of so kind of looking back on myself, maybe crushing your partner
Yeah.
who's been really trying hard for ages and then discovers they've got it all wrong for all that all those kind of complications.
Mhm.
And my hope is that in that situation, because I often work with single women, and I also often work with married women or in long-term relationships, um, which I can imagine might be very challenging for their partner.
Mhm.
Um, and it's always my hope that if that's the right thing for both of them, that the session will actually empower her and give her the understanding to be able to say,
Yeah.
this is what I would really like from you.
Mm.
And hopefully he's a I, that sounds possibly, I was going to say hopefully he's a loving and conscious man who wants to honor that. I mean,
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
also heard of like, the partner who's like, if not, and then maybe there's other decisions to make. But yeah, I love that idea that this is, and I'm saying this is because I'm in the space where the massage happens. Um, this is a place where you can safely explore. And as you say, I don't know, and maybe open up to some different possibilities.
Mm.
And though I think one session can be drastically transformational or amazingly transformational, sometimes maybe it takes two or three
Yeah.
sessions to be able to really kind of settle into what the container
Mhm.
offers.
Yeah, and I think you
Um,
also need to have a session and go away and integrate that experience to then build on that in the next session and maybe the next session after that. So I think it's important to have
mm,
periods of an opportunity to integrate what's happened,
for sure. Yeah,
reflect, and then take new ideas or new awarenesses into the next one. And that's what happened for me. And it was by the third one, it was really powerful because I think so much had gone on in that span of time over those three sessions. Um, and by the third one, I had such a just drastically better understanding of my body and my ability and asking, and I was much more able to ask for what I wanted, and what I needed, and what I did, also what I didn't want and didn't want to do.
mm,
You know, I get more able to say no. Um, but also, I just wanted to circle back to the safety piece that you mentioned when you had your experience, because I think that's the other massive benefit, is that one thing that I realized was that um, I suppose you go through life and you don't really know that you're not experiencing a deep level of safety until you've had that experience, and then you can contrast that with that experience.
yeah,
And so, one of the other benefits, I think, for women in this situation is they may not ever have had an experience of safety in the way that you have and the way that I did in my sessions as well. And that in and of itself then becomes a new sort of reference point or cellular an awareness or understanding of what safety is, which is so
beautiful. Yeah.
healing because then you know what, you know, where you're trying to kind of get back to and how to create that. Or at least you have an idea. You might not necessarily be able to create it every time, but um, even just having that experience once is you know can be life changing. I think for
Mm.
people.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I think that's wonderful. I was reminded of uh, I saw a video of Teal Swans a little while ago, where she was uh, talking about containment, and she refers to in this um, something along the lines of most men don't understand the level of unsafety that almost all women are experiencing all the time.
Hmm.
So at a unconscious level as well. And that was such a kind of profound idea for me. So yes, um, uh, I certainly hope that that's one of the values or benefits that I can offer is having an experience of um, the intimacy is so having a deep experience of intimacy, and the intimacy is really with yourself.
Yeah.
Um, it's a bit hokey, but again, one of my teachers would say, "Into me, see." It's like,
I like
and
that.
yeah, and of
Yeah.
course, it's true. Uh, so on my website, I refer to an encounter with yourself, or so it feels to me like it's this space in which you can actually, and I think that's kind of what you said, you can really meet your authentic self, who's often concealed behind,
Hmm.
masks and armor and protection and so on, and actually really be with yourself
Hmm.
in that safe space. And it's my intention that uh, I'm a masculine presence to witness that recognition or realization or settling into
Hmm.
um, without expectation.
Yeah.
And as you say, I think that's potentially a really healing thing.
There's one other thing that I want to mention that I don't know if this is something you've come across, but one thing that I found it probably happened for the first time in those sessions that I had, the tantric massage sessions that I had, whereas quite often for women attached to pleasure, there can be like a lot of release that needs to happen in the form of tears and crying. And quite often with your partner, you know, that's difficult to do for all the same reasons you said, because it starts to become about them and meaning various different things. But what I've noticed is that, you know, so it's two things that are tied in together, where there's like a deep experience of pleasure and safety and intimacy, but there can like that can release quite a lot of emotion and deep
Yes,
wells of sadness and
sure.
tears. And subsequent to my tantric massage experiences with partners that I had that um, I felt very, very safe with, like maximum level of safety, I found that I always would cry. And but they could handle it because
Mhm.
they could, you know, they could hold that, and they weren't making it mean anything about them or what was going on. They
Yeah.
understood that it was my way of sort of um just sort of processing and, you know, my nervous system releasing, and like a deep sign that safety was happening, that I could release like that. So sometimes another thing I would say is sometimes there's that real, it's another safe place where you can just let all of that out, and you don't need to worry
Mm.
about if you're absolutely like ugly crying, you're not going to care. You know, like you're not going to make it mean anything about you.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That's great. There's um I've often sort of had a little bit of a struggle with like why do I call it tantric massage? What makes it tantric? Is it really legitimate to be using this word? And in some ways, I think it's a kind of shorthand that
Yeah.
lots of people will understand about the let's say unconventional nature of the massage, as in it's not like a massage you're going to go to a spa and have where you're going to be draped and it's all going to be, um, uh, bit kind of detached and distant and so on. Um, but also one of the phrases that I really like is um, Tantra welcomes everything.
Yeah.
So everything is the mud is what the lotus grows from.
Right.
It's all divine. Um, and yes, you the ugly crying face you mentioned absolutely. The um, uh, I've had screaming blue murder
Yeah.
and all kinds of things in between, that extreme and the crying, and yeah, again, this is as much as anything a space where you can be whoever you need to be
Hmm.
at that moment in order to uh, experience the healing that is there for you. Um, and something that's interesting for me in what you were saying about having those experiences and then being with partners afterwards and crying and then being able to handle it, and that may be a testament to them, but perhaps also it's partly that you've had that experience already and you know how to be
Yeah.
with that,
Definitely.
the kind of emotional release part of things. Um, and there was something else that made me think of as well that I wanted to. Oh yes. Um, so uh, in specifically in relation to yoni massage, um, uh, so my teacher, and it's not unique to him by any means, would refer to the lingam, the penis, as a healing wand, and I really believe in that,
Mm.
and I think uh, that's my I don't possess a healing wand for every woman by any means. Like
Mm.
I have a healing wand for one woman who I'm with. So uh I'm definitely not trying to position myself as being able to offer this, kind of magical healing to everybody. But what I think is important in that. So I I like this idea that um, uh, the our genitals have their own consciousness,
Mm,
um, and uh, so a yoni will find her lingam.
mm,
And they will there when that happens there will be they will fit in a way that just is right, and it's not necessarily a physical fit, but it's like an energetic fit that's really hard to describe. But hopefully you may have experienced that. And in the case of when maybe uh, a woman is feeling disconnected, or uh, sex is not enjoyable, perhaps as you were saying, in the menopausal or post-menopausal situation, like everything is changing and you can't tell what feels good or is going to feel good. Um, uh, Again, one of the my teacher would use this analogy of we're born in bliss, and uh, as a woman, your yoni has, just for example, 100 pleasure points within it.
wow.
You're born within pleasure, and then
Mm,
the experiences that you have start to teach you perhaps other things, and the pleasure points become painful,
mm,
and your body won't want to keep things painful for very long, so it will just numb them out.
mm,
So that perhaps life experiences, and indeed just perhaps the thing of kind of I don't know who this is,
mhm,
um, can make you feel numb inside. In which case, I think you may be with the man who has your healing wand, but it
mm,
can't do the healing work because the inside of because your yoni is shut down, basically. And
mhm,
what maybe yoni massage can do, um, again, because there's no agenda and expectation or goal, there's no kind of end result. That uh, conscious touch, presence, maybe stillness, can help to start to sort of awaken the numb parts. Now that may
mhm,
mean there's a return to pain, kind of on in that the reversing the stages, if you like. It's a common thing in yoni massage that there may be areas that feel painful,
mhm, mhm,
but that it can help to return your yoni, to more of a receptive uh, state, receptive to pleasure, in which case the healing wand can do its work. So
beautiful.
yes, in some ways, I think, or again, I like the idea that um, I'm I'm there to help relationships actually work better
Mhm, beautiful.
rather than
Wonderful.
get in the way. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've already said it. I was going to actually ask you to sort of circle back because you said at one point that prior to doing your training with your late wife that you would have had a problem had she wanted to do something like this. So I
Mm.
guess maybe you could just speak quickly to like the men who are partners of these women. Like, what would you say to them to help them feel more comfortable about their partner having a massage with you? And also, I think
Mm.
you said what you think the
Mm.
benefits would be to the relationship, but like, in terms of that sort of that feeling of sort of, I don't know, jealousy, or what the
Sure,
feelings are that come up.
sure.
I maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's um mm, that's a there's a lot to that. I think that's a big thing. So and again, I don't nothing that I say is intended to be any sort of judgment. I've been reading a lot lately actually about men's work and um I think we the the masculine in a partnership, we have to be, if we're really going to love and serve the feminine in our lives in the best way, we have to be willing to be vulnerable, and not just vulnerable, but also to look at the things that are difficult and painful, and try to kind of like, lift the bonnet, to use a rather masculine analogy perhaps, and kind of like look inside and see
Mhm.
actually what's going on in me. So I think there's a big part of it is the work that we have to do ourselves. And um, if you truly love the woman that you're with, then I'm sure you will want to do what's what's necessary to help her. Um, and so the thing that I discovered after receiving the session, and what I didn't understand before and would have been so difficult, is that um, there is there is such a thing as non-sexual intimacy.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
so I didn't know that.
And it's very powerful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, and So I am remarried. I'm in a relationship that I'm 100% committed to, and I won't do anything to compromise that relationship. And we're both practitioners. We both have very clear boundaries for ourselves and for each other, which is actually such a beneficial thing. I mean, I think it would be very difficult for me to do this work and be in a relationship with somebody who didn't,
Mm.
because there's so much that is, I think, hard to understand. But that's
Hmm.
digressing a little bit. So, um, uh, the however it looks. So, let me use this example. Um, it's not medical, and it's not nearly so clinical, but um, you if you're if you're a man in a relationship, there's a good chance that your wife or partner will have to go to the gynecologist from time to time,
Hmm.
who is going to do an internal examination and so on. And um, to to feel threatened by what I'm doing is a little bit like feeling threatened by the gynecologist's examination, as in, again, it's a very different environment. Um, and I think the gynecologist is probably um, not as committed to uh, the woman feeling emotionally safe and held. But again, so very different environment, um, but equally not sexual,
Hmm.
because uh, I'm I'm not doing this for my gratification. And that shouldn't be misunderstood, in that I I love this work
Hmm.
because of the results that I see from it, and because certainly at this stage, it feels to me like um, every session that I give is a form of honoring the memory of my late wife. Um, uh, I've lost my thread for a moment. Um,
We're talking about
yeah,
partners and just
yes,
like the difference
yeah.
between.
Um, so yes, that's it. Uh, I love this work and the possibilities that it offers. Um, and you know, there's certainly joy for me in a good outcome from a session, but during the session, the touch that I'm giving is entirely for her.
Hmm.
There's not there's not a moment when I'm touching for my own gratification
Yeah.
or pleasure. Um, so again, however, you know, if you were to see a a still photograph of a moment in a session, a lot of people would think, okay, well, that's clearly very sexual,
Hmm.
and it's not.
Hmm. Totally. Yeah.
Um, and uh, I think it's a wonderful thing for a man to experience the same.
Hmm.
So if you, I'm sure it could be fantastically healing for both partners and therefore the relationship for them both to have that experience. And I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to sell Atka's offering to men, but uh, yes, if you had the experience, you would you would understand why
Mhm.
it has nothing to do with your relationship.
Yeah. I think the way I said, I know you said it's not nearly as clinical or medical, but putting it in that sort of realm of being a therapy and um a healing modality rather than a sexual
Mm,
experience is really helpful because that's definitely my experience as well. It was like therapy and physical healing all kind of rolled into one, and it certainly wasn't at any point sexual in any way, in the
mm,
way that we
yeah.
tend to understand it. And this is where, like, I feel like nuance is so important, and we need to kind of and maybe the work that partners need to do is just to sit with it and actually allow those thoughts and ideas to come up and for there to be a conversation and um, to really pick apart what's going on here. Because I
Mm,
think that, you know, uh, on I think the difficulty is that um, if you haven't had an experience of intimacy, physical intimacy that's not sexual, you might not have a reference point. And so it's a
exactly.
difficult thing to describe. Um, but that's the best we can do in
Yes.
absence of anything else is to just talk about it.
Mm,
But yeah, I just think that it's important I think it's more important for male practitioners doing this work on women, perhaps, than it is on than the other way around, because I think there's more likely to be kickback from male partners. And it's just worth exploring and having this
mm,
conversation because,
yeah.
it could come
Sure.
up. And
Interestingly, I have just remembered a client who uh, actually traveled a really long way. Um, she she came with her husband's blessing, as you know, with his sort of encouragement. If you feel like this is something that you need to do, then you know, absolutely, I'll support you in this. And maybe
hmm.
didn't know the specifics of quite of what the session would entail. Um, and uh, and for her, the first session was very much about um, she wanted to look into her trauma as a part of her connecting to herself physically.
Hmm.
Uh, and then she came again, and this time said, "Okay, I'm done looking at the trauma. I just want to feel pleasure," which is, what the session was then focused on. And one of the things she mentioned to me was that, her husband was very supportive, but it was almost like, it's fine, you go and do what you need to do. Just don't, like, and I'm over here and I'll, still be here when you come back. And actually, what she wanted was for him to be curious about
Mm,
what happened, like
right.
how do you feel? Why do you think you feel, or just, yes, to be curious about the thing. And maybe that's an important part of it, rather than like, oh gosh, yes, that's really difficult. Um,
Yeah.
but also that touched on something else for me that I think is worth going into. That uh, the training that I had, the initial training that I had, because I've done a few different things, um, was really focused on emotional detox,
Mm,
and the idea that the body work is about evoking stored trauma that can then be released.
hmm
Um, and how that landed with me was that pleasure was, well, it might come up, but it's not really the thing. And actually, when I was doing case studies, of which we had to do uh, 40, so 40 full sessions. Um, Early on, I remember I had a volunteer for case study who, um, frankly, she was signed up as a volunteer to come and have an orgasm. And I remember feeling like, this is not what I do. This is, um, and yes, it felt like not, not forbidden, but sort of like you're missing the point of what this is. And actually, I was missing the point of what it was because I was sort of too, I think, probably because of my conditioning and needing to feel like this is uh, perhaps more proper.
Mm,
If it's about trauma release and maybe there's tears and whatever, then it doesn't look smutty,
mm,
which again was kind of all my stuff. And so women do come with the intention of looking into past traumas and trying to release that. And that's very welcome. And it's, a powerful space in which that can happen. And that can be a very healing thing, of course. And what I've, gradually realized is that uh, pleasure is healing in and of itself, of course. I mean, I'm sorry that it took me a little while to recognize actually just that thing. If that's not something that has typically been in your life, or
mm,
you have been conditioned, as I mentioned before, to believe that it's not appropriate, or that perhaps um, your role is to provide pleasure to somebody else. So having the sort of uninhibited experience of pleasure, you said it yourself, I
mhm,
think, can be a hugely healing
mhm.
thing. So that for me now is a very welcome uh, uh, part of the session as well. And maybe sometimes it goes in stages, like the client I mentioned. Like the first time for her was really
Yeah.
about looking at some painful stuff, and the second time was the opposite.
I think though you did say something I think that's also worth mentioning or just going back to, which is about the fact that some women might be coming to you because they've never had an orgasm.
Mm, yeah.
and they don't know how, or they can't have one with their partner. And obviously there's probably lots of emotional stuff that's tied into that, or there's very likely
Mm.
a lot of, but the reason for them coming, or at least their conscious reason for coming, might be that,
Yeah, yes,
perhaps.
that's very true. Um, and is another fascinating topic for me. So much like pleasure, um, what I learned is um, I'm I'm not giving somebody pleasure. So, for example, if you were to come for a session, I don't have your pleasure to give to you.
Right.
So your
That's
pleasure
a
is
good way of
yours.
describing it.
It's within you, and maybe I can help you to find it. I can contribute to it. Betty Martin would say, who wrote a book about the Wheel of Consent, which is a maybe another topic, but is a very valuable um, kind of reference idea for me. Um, and now I've distracted myself again. Oh yeah, and so before I'd done any reading about Tantra or understood um, conscious or sacred sexuality or the difference, I would say now between having sex and lovemaking and so on, I had this idea that, as a man, if I'm a good lover, then I can give an orgasm to my partner,
Mhm.
and then discovered, oh, I'm not walking around with, I'm not carrying all these orgasms with me to give generously to my sexual partners.
Yeah.
This is an illusion, and that your orgasm is yours, and it's within you. And another teacher of ours, Diana Richardson, wonderful, wonderful woman who wrote The Heart of Tantric Sex, and also uh, another book which I love and recommend to everybody called Tantric Orgasm for Women.
Hmm.
She acknowledges, some women simply are not orgasmic. And
Hmm.
that doesn't mean that they can't have, wonderful, ecstatic experiences of lovemaking. But so I bring that up really just to say um, th it's not a goal, or it's not a goal that I would want to kind of embrace. Like
Right.
let's go looking for this.
Yeah. I'm
But
gonna give you your orgasm.
mm,
Just
yeah,
come here. Come on in.
or
Yeah.
we're bloody well going to uncover it to, it's
Yeah.
the if uh if she can feel safe enough, and if we can, maybe sink through or peel back the layers of things that are perhaps in the way,
Hmm.
maybe in one session or maybe in more, then perhaps she will find it. But I think it's so much to do with the safety, and also that kind of affirmation of um, you are worthy, beyond worthy. Like you are a manifestation of the divine.
Hmm.
You, this in you may well have seen, in some kind of social media circles or whatever. There's an awful lot of goddesses, and I don't want to kind of glibly throw that around. Uh, and at the same time, I the goddess is in every woman.
Well, and
Um,
that, and I think that is partly why it is a tantric massage, because tantra is rooted in Shakti
mm,
and that energy. I mean, that is um if you want to get technical about where the tantra part comes in from like a classical tantra point of view, then that is part of it, right? It is
indeed.
that there is divinity in sexuality,
Yes.
and
Yes.
those two things are not separate, and you don't need to go over there to the temple to experience that. It's here, the householder's experience, right?
Yes. Yes.
So there's something
Indeed.
to that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, uh, yes, I
Beautiful.
think I'd said everything that
Okay.
I intended to about this. So
About that.
um, uh, yes, it's not uncommon that a woman experiences a orgasm as part of the session, but it equally it's not uncommon that she doesn't. And actually, that's what I was thinking of before. I saw this film before I knew anything about tantra or tantric massage, and even then, it had an effect on me.
Mm.
Um, Called "Good Luck to You, Leo Grande."
Okay.
I don't know if you've come across this.
I don't know
It's
this film, no.
so the story that the film takes is like three or four scenes in a hotel room, and the story is a widowed woman um, who was married for a long time to the same man, and uh, sex for her was um, he wouldn't be wearing his pajamas that night at first, would climb on top of her, you know, thrust a few times, ejaculate, roll off, finish.
Yeah.
Um, and she, I think, like she's a teacher, maybe she's a biology teacher or something. And she, after she's been widowed, she decides she really needs to know more about, or she wants to know more about what she's been teaching young girls about, or teaching them
Hmm.
that they shouldn't be doing, or whatever. And she hires a male escort, and there's a lot of kind of unfolding of their relationship, and she lots of awkwardness, and her prying into his life and all this kind of stuff, which makes it kind of interesting. um uh and um she wants to try all these different things, and she wants to have an orgasm, and it doesn't happen while they're having sex or doing whatever. She wants to try oral both ways, and everything you can innocently think of. It doesn't happen for her. And then towards the end of the film, kind of they've finished, they're kind of getting dressed, or he's getting dressed or whatever, and she's standing in front of the mirror looking at herself, and she starts touching herself, and very quickly has an orgasm.
Mm.
And so that was kind of telling, I guess, from the thing of like, it's he's not giving it to her,
Yeah.
she's giving it to herself, she's releasing it from herself, but he
Hmm.
has he has helped her somehow to arrive in that place where she's able to do that. And I remember thinking then, that's such a noble profession.
Mm. Mm.
And of course I've watched it since then with that same kind of feeling. That so a- again, to be really clear, my boundaries are, there's no sexual activity in the session, there's definitely no penetration. um
Or outside of the session.
yeah, quite, thank you, yes. um Indeed. um uh um and still, the idea of helping a woman, especially, I mean, I love that. Um, I like working with a wide range of women, but I like working with older women, especially who are, perhaps in that or similar situation. Um, how wonderful to be able to help somebody have that kind of joyous experience of
Mm.
themselves.
Mm.
And, it's never too late.
Yeah. Beautiful.
The lady that I referred to before, who was one of my early case studies, I think she was 75. And
Wow.
and and if she
I
came
love
to me
that.
as a client now, I'd be thinking, yeah, like, of course,
Yeah.
it's completely legitimate for you to come with the intention of, I want to have that orgasmic release.
Beautiful. Do,
I don't, there's nothing,
sorry, go ahead. Finish what you
but
were saying.
um uh that's, again, I just like, it doesn't have to be about the healing. Uh, and I suppose that, there is an element of, it perhaps it feels safer, or it feels, um, uh, somehow kind of more justifiable. But yeah, if I can help somebody and stay within my boundaries,
Mm.
fantastic.
I wonder, I don't know if this resonates with you or not, but maybe also kind of going back to the tantric element of it, is that there is a sort of reverence, there is a sort of sacredness to it. And so there's a trust there, I would imagine, on your part um, that you come with a lot of knowledge and experience and the ability to bring yourself into alignment so that that person can come in and whatever is meant to unfold will unfold and you just trust that. And that is again part of that tantric sort of thread,
Mm,
I would imagine. I
yes.
don't know if that resonates with you.
Yeah, I think yes, yes. I mean, I don't want to kind of descend into cliches, and I know in some circles this can be a bit of a sort of triggering idea, but I think that sort of notion of uh, Shiva, the masculine principle is like this pure, conscious, still presence, and Shakti, Devi, the feminine principle is the kind of active, moving, energetic, um, love flowing um, part of part of things, and I'm definitely not during the session kind of thinking I'm channeling Shiva,
No.
uh, but there is an element of kind of uh, every man and every woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or rather, like I'm representing the masculine principle,
Yeah.
and that definitely involves adoration, you could say, or
Mm.
worship, certainly of the feminine. And
Mm.
um, one of the remarkable things to me that I've seen over and over again, um, when um, when she feels really safe, so not necessarily in the first session, but certainly can be, um, uh, seeing truly every woman is beautiful
Mm.
when um, at the point that she's perhaps able to allow herself to really be. It's like so this idea of an encounter with yourself, of kind of that's who I am.
Mm.
Or actually, sorry, it's more like that's who I am. It's
Mm.
not such a
Yeah.
kind of sudden thing of like really being able to sort of settle into this is me,
Mm.
and this is okay, this is safe, this is
Yeah.
celebrated, this is welcome, and so on. It's again, without experiencing it, it's difficult for me to find the words to describe it, but it is almost kind of heart-stopping, the radiance actually of that moment, which is of course
Wow.
nothing to do with me.
Mm.
But other than, I've maybe helped to create the environment in which that experience can happen. And I
Beautiful.
believe that um, that will uh, that will floor any man.
Mm.
Like to witness your woman in that state is just, yeah, mind blowing.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. So I just wanted to circle back a little bit to you started talking about sort of your sort of the women that you feel like you're most able to help or you're most interested in working with. Do you want to just say a bit more about that
Hmm.
in terms of like a demographic?
Yes, yes. Um, So there's a part of me that wants to say, I'm very happy to work with everyone. And I
Hmm.
also know from my other work that there's not, I'm not the teacher for everyone, for sure. And um, I guess I feel like um, my life experience makes me perhaps suited to uh, maybe women who are over, let's say, I don't know, 35 or 40. Of course, I wouldn't rule out working with younger women, though I think 25 is I wouldn't want to work with anybody younger than 25. Uh, but yes, I really enjoy working with older women who are maybe in this period of kind of rediscovering themselves, let's
Mm.
say. And yeah, I think lesson, I don't really want to, I guess I've had the more sessions I give, the more diverse the experience is. And then I'm sort of less sure about saying like these are the kind of people I like to work with because actually
Sure.
um, uh, whereas in the past I might have thought this is these are my this is my tribe or
I think maybe what you're saying though, and I could be wrong, is that midlife for a woman or like 35, once you've entered perimenopause and you're on that trajectory, um, it's a different experience. And it sounds to me like maybe you have um, awarenesses about what that's like because, not all men do. A lot of, I mean, let's face it, the world is just waking up to the fact that perimenopause is a thing and it's
yes.
actually really quite difficult. Um, and it sounds to me like you actually have some insight or some experience working with women in that area. And so you
Hmm.
have a
Yeah.
particular lens or like a particular understanding of women in that stage so that it would it you
Yeah,
have
I think
something more to
yes.
add maybe.
Yes. And I think perhaps um understanding loss maybe is
Mm,
um again, it's such a powerful teacher that perhaps that's an arena that I feel sort of suited to or maybe able to um, uh, relate to. Again, I know that everyone's experience of grief is different, and I'm kind of thinking back to women I've worked with who have been widowed and have kind of come to the session as much as anything to sort of try to feel a bit more anchored or kind of grounded, like everything is kind of
spinning.
shifted and
Mm,
uh, yeah. I overall um, and this I'm hesitating because I know this may well sound a bit kind of hackneyed, but um, overall I'm I really love the possibility of helping somebody who feels less than feel more.
beautiful. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it. And
Thank you.
that doesn't really have an age. That could be or
Mm,
or any other sort of describing um you know label. It could be can
mm,
be any woman in any stage of life really that could be in that situation. Lovely.
yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the different sessions that you offer?
Oh, sure. Um,
Describe them.
so uh, the tantric massage, I do offer introductory sessions, which are uh, relatively short, like maybe a couple of hours. I might be perhaps just uh, working on the back of the body. Um, Really, that's intended for. somebody is feeling quite uncertain about whether this is actually the pathway that they want to go down. So meant to be a very kind of gentle introduction to the kind of um, space and environment that we're working on and in. Um, and then otherwise, full body massage, which is truly full body massage, uh, though without anything internal. So um, there's no obligation to be naked. That's um, the most common way. But uh, if a woman wants to keep her underwear on, then that's perfectly fine. Um, but yeah, ordinarily, uh, she would be naked, and the massage would be literally her whole body, apart from, again, anything internal. Um, so that would involve breast massage and usually quite deep groin massage, which perhaps surprisingly um, is often uh, women want it to be really quite deep once they start to feel it. Uh,
Mm.
it's an area. So I was kind of saying it's proper or true full body massage. So in a spa massage, um, we perhaps focus most on the areas that the spa massage would just not go near. Um, so I suppose actually what we're doing is massaging pelvic floor muscles, which generally will not, won't get that kind of attention. So yes, full body massage, which is maybe a, a few hours. Um, and then the sort of next level would be full body massage followed by yoni massage. And the yoni massage is sometimes referred to as mapping.
Mhm.
So because maybe the word massage might conjure up the idea of sort of moving, stroking, and so on. And actually, in yoni massage, there probably will be a lot of stillness.
Okay.
So it would be with one finger, certainly to begin with. And yes, a lot of I always think of it as, or ideally, it will feel like a collaboration, as in we will be communicating a lot about how things feel, what feels good, where she would like me to go next. Um, does she want me to stay? Does she want me to? So it could be, this feels a bit painful,
Mm.
stay there. Or it could be, this feels a bit painful, like let's move away from that.
Right.
So certainly, first of all, it will be a very slow, kind of measured process with a lot of stillness, a lot of pausing.
Mhm.
So really, like we're kind of together exploring, how does the yoni, how does she feel inside, like really the whole area. And then often that will um, uh, so I will start with a specific finger, and then uh, maybe pause for a while. If she wants to have more, then we'll use another finger. And amazingly, the sensation can change according to which finger I'm using. So it can
Mm.
be sometimes like the first finger, which would usually be my ring finger, kind of feels okay. And
Mm.
then my middle finger is painful. And
Mm.
then index finger is wonderful. For, I mean, it's not always, there's no formula, but yes, it's amazing to me how apparently it doesn't seem like it should be different. But I guess, maybe the pauses in between, or the gradual releasing whatever process is going on kind of allows for that. So hopefully, certainly, if things maybe start not feeling wonderful, that as we go along, perhaps we'll start to feel certainly more and more pleasurable. Um, so the yoni massage itself could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. I mean, we do generally time tends to stand still, and there's not
Mhm.
like I'm not watching the clock while we do this, but perhaps it can be a surprisingly long process. So those are the tantric massage offerings, and then um, I'm also starting to do uh, massage for harmonizing specific chakras. If somebody is interested in their chakra system, um, it could be a kind of entire seven chakra massage, which would be probably an equivalent amount of time to doing a full tantric session. So probably could be 5 or 6 hours, or it could be, um, for example, feeling like, I want to open my heart chakra or throat or whichever one it could be. So there are
Mhm.
um, specific massages that I've learned for each of those
Wow.
which would typically be so an individual one might be a much shorter session. So if somebody is interested in this kind of work and wants to have a shorter session, then that's maybe a way in as well, because an individual chakra massage, which still might be involving a lot of the body, um, front and back, or maybe sides and all sorts, is perhaps an hour and a half.
Wow. Okay. Beautiful. Wonderful. Is there anything else? I think I've covered everything on my list. Is
Mm.
there anything else you wanted to say
Um,
or?
Something that we've spoken about before.
Mhm.
So you kind of acknowledging the fact that I'm somewhat remote where I
Mhm.
work
Yes.
in South Wales. So I'm not very far from Cardiff, and accessible by car from the west of England, Oxford, Gloucester, Hereford, and so on, and the southwest. Um, but uh, the and so I do have clients who come, who are maybe driving half an hour or 40 minutes or something, but sometimes people are coming from a lot further.
Yes.
Um, and I think it's worth thinking about one of these sessions as uh, more than going for a massage and
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
going home again. So I know you spoke about the integration after the sessions that you've had. So it's maybe worth if somebody is considering it, it's maybe worth thinking of it as not exactly a day out, but maybe something where you may want to have somewhere nearby to stay before or after the session, or maybe both, so that because at the end of the session, for sure, however you may be feeling, some integration is really crucial. Um,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know, I accepting that. Just thinking of the lady I saw a couple of days ago. We had to finish at a certain time because she's got to be home for the kids coming home from school.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, that's allowed, and I'm very happy to to be able to offer her a session. And I think ideally, you're going to have some space afterwards to sit with yourself and just to give yourself whatever time is necessary. So again, it
I
may be
think
worth.
what I would say is, I think if you're going to go to the lengths of giving yourself the gift of having the massage in the first place, it's really worth going the extra mile and giving
Yeah.
yourself the gift of the time to integrate it properly afterwards. Because
Yes, thank you for putting it like that.
it's just such a rich experience, and it's like, it's just, it's, and I'm not, the integration phase is not nowhere as nearly as important, obviously, as the experience itself. But my experience it has been that having that time after just was like almost like another gift in a way because you really
Mm,
have the space to fully reflect and to relax. You feel so relaxed, and then so you kind of want to maximize that, the benefit of that level of
yeah.
relaxation, to be able to go and be somewhere and be still and to be quiet and to be alone is really um such a beautiful thing to be able to do. So yeah, I
Mm.
guess that's what I would say. So
I
just say, treat it as a think about the whole experience as happening like long before you get there and sort of long after you've left.
mm,
It's a bigger,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. I love that way you expressed it of it, the it's really a gift to yourself and to
yeah.
um yes, recognize that as the space before and after. And of course, um, you know, things might keep unfolding or evolving, blossoming for weeks and weeks
Definitely.
afterwards.
Mm.
So generally, uh, I don't suggest that people have more than like come more than once a month. I think it's
Yeah.
good to have those few weeks in between, uh, yeah, to have maybe more clarity about like if next time, what is it that I want or need now?
Mm. Yeah. Perfect. Beautiful. Anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Honestly, I think I've probably said everything
Everything.
everything there is to say. Thank you for
Good.
helping draw all of that out of me.
My pleasure.
No,
I think it's just great having these conversations.
mm,
It's just,
it's actually really valuable for me to uh, need to try to find the words
yeah.
to express things. As in, it's helpful for me to kind of be more and more rooted in why I'm doing this, because honestly, um, uh, it's still it's still for me sometimes a challenge to
Hmm.
um, uh, feel to not feel like uh, I might be judged
Yeah. To be visible
harshly
with
by
confidence about it and to be
mm,
fully
yeah,
open and
or I'm just
transparent.
kind of knowing that uh, society might uh, regard what I'm offering as yeah being
Mm.
smutty.
Yeah, and I think I hear you, and I just it's so interesting because I don't know if you saw it, but the thing just came out on Netflix, the Manosphere documentary with Louis Theroux. And we're in a time where, there's been this massive backlash to feminism and the Me Too movement, where sort of the pushback against women in younger generations, very mainstream, in very mainstream places, is like it's rampant. I mean, it's worrying, and so I'm glad that you don't know anything about it. That's kind of refreshing, but it is so present in um, sort of in our culture, I would say, in Western culture. So the counterbalance to that is the work that you do
Mm,
and you essentially, and your the lens through which you experience women and the what you can offer them is the counterbalance to that. And
right.
so I think that the more that you can talk about these things openly and um, explore these ideas and these practices and the power that they have is so important because it's literally counteracting this absolute rage against women that is present right now, and this utter just furiousness that a lot of women are just choosing not to involve themselves with men at all now because um, of sort of such an high level of ingrained misogyny in our culture, especially again younger in a younger generations, but all generations. So um, I know that it is difficult because there is that fear of being judged, and I respect that.
Mm.
But I think whenever we can sort of have these conversations openly, it's providing like another voice, another perspective that is completely 180 degrees
Right.
from what we're seeing right now.
It somehow what that made me think of. So part of it, like one of the first thoughts that came to me is that I imagine that um, that rage, to use your word, is rooted in fear, probably. Um,
Yeah.
and maybe that's not fear of women, but fear of failure. Uh, so I don't want to be an apologist for any uh, misogynistic attitudes or behavior. Um, but I think the um, the wounded masculine can easily be overlooked in talk about toxic masculinity, for example. But
Mm.
that's kind of almost an aside. That one of the things that it made me think of was coming back to Diana Richardson and her teaching. So she has a retreat for couples, um, and which is an incredible gift for a couple to give themselves if they have the opportunity. Um, uh, Called the Making Love Retreat. Um, there is somebody now offering this in the UK as well. But leaving the Making Love Retreat aside, one of the things that she mentioned it that or reinforced was how important it is for couples to make time for intimacy. And in the context of this group of 35 couples in this retreat, and there were people saying, yes, but the children, um, and she was saying, you have to make time.
Yeah,
You know, even
definitely.
and uh, as soon as the children are old enough to process this, then they need to understand that it's good for them to understand that their mother and father need the time to invest in their love. And actually, if you are, as a couple, if you are making love, that the effect of that, I'm getting uh, goose pimples again from kind of remembering this, like or that sensation. If you are making love, that necessarily radiates outward. Your children will feel it, like their experience
Mm,
of the world will be impacted by your lovemaking, and
totally.
your neighbors will feel it. Your friends will feel it,
Mm,
and so if more of us are making love,
mm,
I think, maybe that can be an something of an antidote to what you're describing. Maybe um, the men who are or the young men who are like a part of this culture of or movement of rage against women, maybe as younger men or boys, they didn't have that experience.
I think that's
Um,
true. I mean, I absolutely agree, and I think like I've got two sons, and it horrifies me to think that they're growing up in this time where this is commonplace. This is part of their culture that they're already in now. And all I know is that, like as a mother, that all I can do is try and um, you know, think about what what are the things that make help men to or boys grow into sort of healthy partners as men. Not that that's the goal, because I just want them to be happy humans,
Sure.
but
Yes.
and I think about my 13-year-old who still, he's 13, but he still asks me to put him to, he would hate me to say this, but he still wants me to put him to bed every night. And I haven't, and I kind of pat myself on the back for this because I have an AccuPen, like, you know, like an acupressure pen. And every night he asks me to like use it on him in really specific ways. And I feel like I'm training him to sort of like not only to ask for touch in a certain way, but also to like then hopefully with a partner to say, what do you
Mm.
like? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And he's
Yes.
and that my 16-year-old will still come and cry. Like he's 6'4", but he'll still curl up in my lap and have a good old cry, you know? Um, and I and that is the thing. But in some ways it's like, and I just going back to you, that is really important, and we need to, you know, my generation of mothering needs to think about that for our children who are growing up. But in terms of like what we have now, right now, we're still in the situation where there's this sort of counter movement that is in direct opposition to women feminism and Me Too, that is that adult men are having, like are sort of in at the moment, and the incel culture. And I'm again, I don't think you, maybe you're not familiar with a lot of this, but
I know of incel.
yeah.
I know what that stands for. It's such uh, uh, it's that's such a bizarre combination or such a bizarre way of expressing. Um, so to me, again, this is a judgment to some level, which I don't, feel great about. But um, surely involuntarily celibate means I don't know how to be with women.
Mm,
Like women can't feel safe with me, or I don't know how to behave, or I don't feel safe around women. I mean, again, so much of this. Uh, I think is it Ram Dass maybe. I saw this quote recently. There was something like, "The best thing I can do for you is my inner work.
right.
The best thing you can do for me is your inner work."
Yeah.
And actually, if we and I go back 5 years and I wouldn't really have understood. I would maybe have just been beginning to understand this, but go back 10 years and I was like, to me then men's groups just seemed so indulgent. Just get on, stop navel gazing and just get on with it. Now I feel very differently about that. But um uh so I suppose in some ways, that's kind of me trying to sell my service because I I understand it's not going to be accessible to everybody, and not everybody is going to feel like this might be a good idea, but it really is a way of doing or a way of contributing or beginning to do uh, your own inner work. I mean, so uh, to try and kind of explain that a little bit better. It's like if you're, um, and I'm hesitating again because I'm about to descend probably into cliches, but if you're as a woman, you don't feel worthy of love, you don't know how to love yourself, you don't any of those kind of things. How how challenging is it going to be to um, help the men around you
Mm,
to recognize that this is like how the feminine should be respected and treated.
mm,
If you're so I expect that your capacity to raise boys is rooted in your um in your sense of yourself,
Yeah.
a kind of healthy
Yeah.
sense of yourself.
Mm.
Um, uh, so, so I kind of, it sounds so kind of glib, and I again don't intend it to be like that at all. But perhaps no, let's really own it. I think this kind of work can really change the world.
Oh, totally. Absolutely, it can. I think it can. I think it, and like you said before about Diana Richardson's work, it's like the more people are really truly connecting and they understand intimacy and they're making it into it's like a proactive part
Mm,
of the relationship that they foster over time. Like how can that not be better for everyone? Like
mm.
it absolutely can, and it is. So um and I think that what's interesting, and this is again going back to this sort of the polarity thing, is that women tend to be naturally inclined to that, whereas men maybe aren't. And so, you said men's work is self-indulgent and so on. And I think that's probably from
I used to
you used
feel
to
like
think
that.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 I understand. But I think that that comes from a very what has been the norm in terms of what how masculinity expresses itself and what is like normalized for men is not that sort of thing.
Mm.
Whereas we're coming into this. Oh, I saw this wonderful, Terry Real. I saw this a Terry Real clip, and he was talking about how um, you know the modern feminist movement has given women the independence and power that they didn't once have. And the reaction to that has been the manosphere, essentially. But the toothpaste is not going back in the tube. Like here we are. We have this independence and this new found power, whatever you want to call it. So what he's calling for is for men to step up and do the work and to like, learn a few skills, basically. So what you're saying is, whereas at one time you would have thought that that work was self-indulgent, now it's like imperative. It's like actually crucial for us to get along and for like,
Mm.
for people to be able to be in better and healthier relationships. Because what we were in before was something else, and so now we're in a new era where women need men to kind of have these skills and to relate to them in a different way. And that's kind of what your work can do. It can give women an experience of a man who knows how to relate to them in a way
Right.
that is where we're going as a species.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think it's even though you're not directly working with men, you're working with women, it's still part of that work of men's work in a way, if that makes sense,
Hmm.
because it helps women to understand what they need from maybe what they need from a man, or what they
Yeah.
can te
Exactly.
help their partner understand about what they need in order to have real intimacy.
Mm.
Um, because I think as a species, unless we figure that out, we're going to stop having kids. Like women are not having children anymore. They don't want to have a child with a man unless there's something deeper there. Like that's sort of where this whole manosphere thing is going. If you look at the data and you look at women are now choosing not to have children, or they're having children by themselves or whatever. Um, so yeah, so I just that was kind of a complete side tangent, but it's just interesting because I do think, like, again, positioning your work, like, where does it fit
Yeah.
in this whole where we're at,
Sure.
sort of
Exactly. I mean,
culturally?
that's what I was going to say. We, I do, I do shield myself intentionally from a lot of, current affairs. Because it's just much better for me not to be
In that, yeah, no, I
in
understand.
that,
Yeah.
giving my attention to,
Noise.
I'm conscious that there's plenty of horror in the world, and but. still acknowledging that this is the environment, this is the world in which I'm operating. I can't pretend that this is happening in this kind of blissful isolation. And yes, I suppose um, uh, it is, yeah, something that um, if I allow myself to sort of feel a bit more grandiose, it's about, you know, bit by bit, just as teaching movement is for me, bit by bit, trying to help the world to be a slightly better, happier, more loving place.
Beautiful. I think we have to end on that because my children are going to walk through the door any minute.
Indeed, I think we're kind of close to 2 hours now, which is
Yes.
extraordinary. Yes. So, Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really,
That was beautiful.
I'm so grateful to you for you.
You're most welcome. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Hmm. So I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.